February 16th, 2021. In accordance with the governor's order that we are able to have these meetings, given this pandemic going on, to have these meetings on Zoom and as a substitute, I guess, for our open meeting law. There are some special wording, I guess I'm supposed to use under the provisions of the open meeting law. For those who are in attendance at this meeting, we're going to be televising this by MIA TV as recording, as well as Malden resident John Mayera will also be recording. So be aware that there'll be an audio and video recording of this meeting. The council will come to order. And the first order of business, if you'll please all rise and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you will all please remain standing for a moment of silence as we honor our service persons, our men and women in uniform, and for those who have given the ultimate sacrifice. Thank you. And Councilor Murphy, please remain standing. Councilor Murphy has requested a moment of silence. Councilor Murphy?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like a moment of silence for Laurel Gordon, who very sadly was another longtime resident of 280 Salem Street. Maureen Fritz, if you might remember, passed away a couple of weeks ago, and Laurel and Maureen were great friends. Laurel, during this pandemic, would take her chair and go sit outside Maureen's door, and they would talk for hours. And my time with Laurel goes back to when my son Jeffrey, who's now 38, was 3 years old. She was a teacher at the JCC, and where Jeffrey went, and we were talking one day, and I said, no, I have pictures, going back over 30 years. And I brought them in, and she was so just pleased to see her life in the past with a child that she knew, to show all her friends at 280 Salem Street. So they both, Maureen and Laurel, were, very staunch members of our Jewish community in the temples, and she is going to be missed by all, especially me. So just a moment of silence. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Would you remain standing one more time? I just got some sad news this afternoon that a cousin of mine who has recently moved to Malden within the last 10 years, a 50-year-old woman, Monica Anderson, who lived on Linwood Street here in Malden. Her husband called me, who's actually my second cousin, to tell me the shocking and sad news that Monica, who I had seen just as recently as a few weeks ago, it seems, took ill, was rushed to the hospital. Wasn't the COVID-19, but had some other medical issues that were unexpected, and she never made it home from the hospital. And at 50 years old, what seemed like relatively good health, I never knew of any medical issues that she had. Monica Anderson passed away this Sunday. So again, we ask for another moment of silence in honor of Monica Anderson. Please. May they all rest in peace. Thank you. Clerk will call the roll.
Kamel.
Here.
Condon.
Condon here.
Pro.
Here.
DeMaria.
DeMaria here.
Linehan.
Linehan here.
Murphy.
Murphy here.
O'Malley.
O'Malley here.
Tika,
Tika here.
Spatafora,
Here.
Winslow,
Winslow here.
and Anderson.
Anderson here.
Everyone's here.
Again, thank you. Counselor O'Malley, would you lower your hand, please? Thank you. Okay, first order of business.
Josh was talking to me.
We have 2 sets of minutes, paper 54, paper 54-20, minutes of the meeting of February 9th, and paper 55-21, minutes of the meeting of February 2nd.
Make a motion to approve. Both.
On Counselor Di Maria's motion to approve these minutes, do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Second by Counselor Linehan, I think that was. The clerk will call the roll.
Kamel,
Yes.
Condon,
Condon, yes.
Crow,
Yes.
Di Maria,
Yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
Valley, yes.
Tika,
Tika, yes.
Spatafora,
Spatafora, yes.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Anderson.
Anderson, yes. Those minutes have been approved. Did we have any guest requests, Mr. Lucy?
We don't by email. I don't see any questions on there either.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Next order of business.
Paper 56-21, mayoral reappointment, Michelle Romero, 34 Greystone Road, Malden, as city planner, said term to commence upon her confirmation by the city council and to expire on February 13th, 2024.
Councilor Anderson,
Yes, Counselor Crowe?
these next 3 are all reappointments, and as we're in the pandemic mode, we've been just reappointing and only bringing in people that are new appointments. So I see Councilor O'Malley has a question, but I'd make a motion that we reappoint Michelle Romero.
Second that.
We have a second to that. We have discussion on that. Counselor O'Malley?
I appreciate the sentiments that Councilor Crowe is stating. I do think it would be helpful to as hopefully the pandemic won't be lasting too much longer, that we do bring in our appointments and discuss with them how they think things are going and how we expect things to be moving going forward. Particularly with the city clerk, the city planner, because we're talking about reorganizing the MRA. So it would be really great to at least talk with Michelle and have her thoughts about what the future of the role looks like and how it fits into the MRA.
Thank you, Counselor. Would you lower your hand, please? Any other discussion on the motion?
I'll second it.
Which motion are you seconding, Counselor? Counselor
On the
Condon?
reappointments to, not to call them in, to get them reappointed. If you want to call them in at a later date, fine.
Councilor Anderson, that's what I was going to say is, through the city solicitor's office, they've met with us, and it's either you bring in everybody or you can't pick and choose then once you decide you're not going to, meaning all the reappointments. But I do think Councilor O'Malley has a good point, and I would suggest that we, not holding up a reappointment, but that we do have, even if it's the city planner, to have those discussions about sort of things that are going on.
So I'm not sure what you're saying. Are you supporting the current appointment or not?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. What?
No, supporting the current the current reappointment, and at a later date. Not that it's not tied to her reappointment. However,
You can talk with them later.
and have those discussions.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have any discussion on that point? Then there is a motion on the floor that's been made and seconded. The clerk will call the roll. And that is the reappointment of Michelle Romero. Clerk will call the roll.
Kamel,
Yes.
Condon,
Condon, yes.
Crowe,
Yes.
DeMaria,
yes,
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
O'Malley, yes.
Sika,
Sika, yes.
Spatafora,
Spatafora, yes.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Anderson.
Anderson, yes. So Michelle Romero has been reappointed. Next order of business.
Paper 57-21, mayoral reappointment, Kirk Jamuski, 569 Fellsway East, Malden, as a member of the Conservation Commission. Said term to commence upon his confirmation by the City Council and to expire on February 13th, 2023.
On Councilor Crow's motion
To reappoint.
to reappoint,
Second,
seconded by Councilor Condon. Any discussion on the motion on the floor? No discussion, then the clerk will call the roll.
Kamel,
Yes.
Condon,
Condon, yes.
Crowe,
Yes.
DeMaria,
DeMaria, yes,
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
O'Malley, yes.
Sika,
Sika, yes.
Spatafora,
Spatafora, yes.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Anderson.
Anderson, yes. That reappointment has been made as well. Next order of business.
Paper 58-21, mayoral reappointment. Kali Kaba, 22 Cottage Place, Malden, as a member of the Conservation Commission, said term to commence upon his confirmation by the City Council and to expire on February 7th, 2023.
Councilor Crowe.
Make a motion that we reappoint both Khalil and Kirk have been great on the Conservation Commission, so I make a motion that we reappoint Khalil.
Second,
Second that.
So we have a motion by Councilor Crowe, seconded by Councilor Murphy this time. And we will have any discussion on that? No, I see no hands up, no discussion. The clerk will call the roll.
Kamel,
Yes.
Condon,
Condon, yes.
Crowe,
Yes.
DeMaria,
DeMaria, yes,
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
O'Malley, yes.
Sika,
Sika, yes.
Spatafora,
Spatafora, yes.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Anderson.
Anderson, yes. That appointment has been made by the full City Council. Next order of business.
Under hearings and petitions, public hearing, paper 59-21, petition National Grid, 1101 Turnpike Street, North Andover, Mass. Massachusetts Electric Company, DBA National Grid of North Andover, Mass, that it desires to construct a line of underground electric conduits, including the necessary sustaining and protecting fixtures under and across the public way or ways herein. Plan number 29146213, Fairlawn Street. Permission to excavate the public highways and to run and maintain underground electric conduits, together with such sustaining and protecting fixtures as it may find necessary for the transmission of electricity, said underground conduits to be located substantially in accordance with the plan herein marked Fairlawn Street, Malden, Massachusetts. The following are the street and highways referred to: plan number 291-46213 Fairlawn Street, National Grid to install beginning at a point approximately 40 feet west of the center line of the intersection of Main Street and Fairlawn Street, and continuing approximately 6,060 feet in west direction, install one new manhole, 606-inch of conduit entrenching west from the intersection of Fairlawn Street and Main Street.
Mr. Lucy, has National Grid been in touch with, if the contact has been made with the ward councilor as we've instructed?
I believe they had. Councilor O'Malley can speak to that.
I can confirm that they have.
You can confirm these are all in your ward, Councilor O'Malley?
At least the one on Fairlawn Street is.
Fairlawn Street. Okay, then I declare the public hearing open. Anyone from the petitioner wishing to come before the council and speak?
Yes, Council. I'm Dan Cameron.
Well, good evening, Dan. Been a long time since I've seen your pretty face.
How you doing? Good to see
I'm
you.
good.
Everyone,
It's good to
and
see
everyone
you
on the
too.
board. Yeah. So just a quick overview here. Yes, we did have a chance to meet with both DPW Director Bobby Knox and Councilor O'Malley. And so what's going on here? This is an underground line that feeds the Oak Grove MBTA station. And it also feeds, it actually starts at Melrose up in Howard Street and eventually comes down onto Main Street. And it also feeds, one of the feeds into the Melrose Wakefield Hospital. And this section of line is not in conduit or manhole, which is typical construction for today. So based on its age and so forth, we want to get this line, which is a critical line, into a manhole and duct system. And so that's what this petition before you is all about. We will have to install one manhole on Fairlawn Street, and then we will install conduit from a manhole that's out on Main Street, and we'll connect to a manhole that's already in place at the end of Fairlawn Street, which is actually owned by the MBTA. That's where the line of demarcation is. So we had a meeting with, like I said, with Councilor O'Malley and Bobby Knox, and we reviewed the restoration. And so I think we're all in agreement as to how this work will proceed. And as far as the schedule, we're looking to get this going, after the moratorium is lifted, probably sometime in April. And total construction, we don't think it'll take any more than 2 months, and it could be even sooner. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that any of the councilors have.
Thank you, sir. I see a hand raised. Let me start with Councilor Winslow, who's first to raise a hand. Councilor Winslow.
Hi, Dan. Thanks for coming out tonight. I guess I thank you to National Grid actually being proactive here. I mean, seeing what's happening in Texas right now, you see how critical this infrastructure is, and it's something that we can easily forget. So it's great to see you being proactive. My one question is this stretch of Fairlawn. It's a very busy kind of pedestrian corridor because I think there's the bridge over towards the T station. I don't know if you talked about that with Councilor O'Malley, just making sure that people have access to the T station who are walking through there. So I just have that question for you and Councilor O'Malley. Thank you.
Yes, the construction work will actually be on one side of the street as you're heading from Main Street. If you were heading down towards the brook, it'll be on the it'll be hugging the left-hand side of the street. So, but as all with the National Grid projects, we'll have the correct complement of police details and so forth to make sure that both pedestrians and vehicular traffic will continue to have access while it's under construction.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor O'Malley.
I just wanted to reiterate the fact that I did speak with the petitioner, and we talked about the restoration of the road. We talked about kind of what the impact would be on the neighborhood, and piggybacking off some of this work to make sure that the city can get whatever it needs to get done in the roadway prior or during or after this work. And we also talked about whether or not there would be some gas work that would be necessary also as part of, if we're going to be doing the road, we might as well do it completely. So I'm 100% comfortable with what they're proposing, but I'll wait until we hear what the results of the hearing are.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the petition? Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the petition? Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the petition? Seeing none and hearing none, I'll declare that portion of the hearing to be closed. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to the petition? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the petition? One more time, anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the petition? I see Councilor Winslow's hand up. Councilor Winslow. If you will unmute.
I just noticed in the chat that someone has put up, someone's concerned about how cement will be handled and replaced. So I just wanted to make sure that that question was asked of Mr. Cameron. So just doing that.
I'm sorry, Counselor, you broke up a little bit. What was the question
okay.
again?
The question was, there's just someone in the chat posted about wondering how the concrete will be replaced as well. So we talked about replacing the street. Is there any impact on the sidewalks and concrete, and will that be replaced?
No, at this point, all of the work will be actually within the paved way, you know, between the curbs. So we don't plan on impacting the sidewalk, but of course, if we did, we would restore it to its exact or better condition.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we have Councilor Crowe.
Yeah, I'm not speaking in opposition, but I did have a question. So I know that you're doing the underground conduit, but are there going to be any poles that are going to be required? That when we met on Center Street, you know, to an underground conduit, and then sort of, you know, talking about having to still erect some poles. So I'm just curious, with this situation, are there any additional poles that will be needed?
No, Council. This is an underground line that, like I said, starts all the way up in Melrose, the entire route. So there'll be no impact to poles at all on this project.
Thank you.
Okay, I see Councilor O'Malley has his hand up for another comment. Councilor O'Malley.
I just wanted to clarify. I do think that you are adding one bank access that may be in the sidewalk area. I'm not 100% sure, but if I remember the plans, I think there might be one area that you slightly impact the sidewalk. But like you said, if you do impact the sidewalk in any respect, you'd be replacing all of the impacted concrete, correct?
That is correct. Yeah, when we set I'm just looking at the plan, and when we set the manhole, that could slide a little bit. You wouldn't see it because all you'd see is the cover once we're done. But placement of that manhole, depending, you know, we've picked a spot where we think there are no other utilities and we can fit it in there. But if we had to slide it into the sidewalk area, again, you'd only see the cover, which would be out in the paved area, but we would restore the sidewalk to its original or better condition. All right.
Thank you. And then you also said that you would be flyering the neighborhood well in advance of the work actually starting and making sure that everyone's kind of aware of kind of the schedule, et cetera.
That's correct. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, before I see some other hands that have already spoken, is it Councilor Winslow? Do you have another comment to make? Councilor Winslow, your hand is up. And your mute button is on.
And another neighbor posted something in the chat. So will there be any disruption to water service during this? I don't think that's a National Grid issue, but I don't know if that came up with DPW Director Knox. Is there need to redo the water line?
No, but I'll turn it over to Councilor O'Malley because there may be a hydrant issue of something, but nothing to do with National Grid.
I spoke, so if I may, through the chair, and I do see that Robin has her hand raised. So I don't know if there's a public comment request in that. I did speak with the city engineer and the DPW director. The water main on this street is 8 inches. There are 2 black hydrants. So the plan is to replace the 2 black hydrants and to assess the water main while we have the road open. The goal is to not replace the water main. The goal is to, if need be, drill out any of the calcification on the inside. And there would be some areas where around those black hydrants that the water main would need to be replaced. And then any lead service lines that are left, which I don't think there are any, I think we already replaced them, would be taken care of. So there will be some water work, but the electric work won't disrupt it. If we do the water work, that would be a slight disruption that we would coordinate with the homeowners.
Okay. Councilor Winslow, have you lowered your hand, or are you up again?
I'm lowering my hand again. Sorry.
Okay. Okay, I don't see any other hands that have been raised, but I will, from the chair, say, Dan, we're glad to see you here. You've always been very responsive to us on the council. And one of the things that the council tried to make very clear to National Grid and other utilities is the importance of making sure that you're reaching out to the ward councilors as well as through the city clerk to make sure that the council representation has been informed at any of these times that you're coming before the council, so that we're well aware and if they had a chance to vet what's going on. So I see you've done that, and just want to comment that we're going to insist that that always happen before we're willing to move forward in these petitions. So thank you for what you do and getting others as well to make sure that they're reaching out to the council, particularly the ward councilors whose ward the activity is taking place in. Okay.
Will do. Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other hands raised, but I'll ask once again, is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to the petition? Seeing none, hearing none, I'll declare that portion of the hearing to be closed. I'll entertain a motion.
Move to grant the petition.
On Councillor O'Malley's motion to grant, do I see a second by Councillor Winslow?
But there's a number of conditions that we have to grant it with. I'm not sure if you have them written down.
Yep. So we will condition it that the engineering be called when DigSafe is notified and the street and the sidewalk be restored to the satisfaction of the Director of Public Works. The clerk will call the roll.
Hamel,
Hamel, yes.
Condon,
Condon, yes.
Crow,
Yes.
DeMaria, yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
O'Malley, yes.
Sika,
Yes, sorry.
Spatafora,
Spatafora, yes.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Anderson.
Anderson, yes.
Carries.
So that petition has been granted by the full city council. Next order of business.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Great to see you. Always welcome you come back to the council.
All right.
Paper 60-21 order, be it hereby ordained that section 2.08.040, 2.12.170, 2.20.030, and 2.20.040 be amended relative to the creation of a Department of Public Parks and Recreations and in associated offices.
The sponsor?
If you wouldn't mind, I'd like to briefly share my screen to kind of show. I prepared.
Mr. Lucy, who's the sponsor?
Councilor O'Malley.
Councilor O'Malley for the paper.
Oh, my apologies. I thought you were calling on me.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I just want to show kind of what the goal is here. So the goal is to dedicate the human and financial resources needed to care for, maintain, and expand recreational facilities, parks, and conservation space in the city of Malden. The below proposal seeks to accomplish the above goal by creating a new director level position, the Director of Parks and Recreation, in charge of Parks and Recreation in Malden. The proposal aims to empower the Board of Park Commissioners, a body that currently exists but is unfilled, to help direct the future of open space and recreation in our community. Under this proposal, the Director of Parks and Recreation would have two direct reports, the existing recreational coordinator and a new head of the Malden Park Rangers position. The function and management of the existing recreation department would stay the same. The head of the Malden Parks and Park Rangers would develop and coordinate a comprehensive plan to protect, maintain, and improve all city parks, forests, naturalized areas, wetlands, waterfronts, greenways, bike trails, walking paths, and any other publicly owned land under the care and control of the Board of Park Commissioners, the Public Works Commission, and the City of Malden or any subdivision thereof. The head of the Malden Park Rangers would have a unit of park rangers dedicated to accomplishing the mission of the department. The new unit would be deputized to enforce city ordinances, state laws, and write citations when needed. The Malden Park Rangers would be unarmed at all times and would coordinate with social workers, EMTs, Malden Fire, Malden Police, the State Police, and any other law enforcement agency of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts when needed. This is the primary goal here. There's been a lot of discussion about, how exactly do we ensure public safety in our community? One of the challenges that we always have, particularly in my ward, is, how do we handle the vandalism happening at Waits Mount? I am biased when it comes to this. I used to be a park ranger with the Department of Conservation and Recreation. So I do appreciate the in between a resident of our city, and the Malden Police Department. And I think that there's a great way in which Malden Park Rangers can help be an intermediate between that. I don't necessarily believe that you always need to send, an armed police officer to every situation that's going on. I think a Malden Park Ranger who is unarmed could help ensure that our parks are maintained and safe. And when needed, coordinate with Malden Police to ensure that if something is beyond the scope or the handling of the park ranger, law enforcement can be there as their backup. Hopefully we can expand upon this in ordinance. If we are comfortable or more comfortable with having this be a resolve rather than an ordinance change, I'm open to that. But it's just hoping to get this conversation started about how do we ensure safety in our parks going forward.
Thank you, Councilor. You want to come off of your screen? Okay, I see a few hands that are raised. Councilor Winslow.
Yeah, I know I see this as sort of an approach, when we talked about developing the transportation planner position, I helped form a committee that looked at the transportation issues, compared what Malden was doing to other communities, and then kind of created kind of a white paper to justify that. So I think that's kind of an approach. We started off with, a resolution asking the mayor to form sort of a transportation advisory committee and to do that. I mean, I think it's, we have the issue of patrolling the parks. We have the issue, especially now as we're talking about MRA being absorbed into the city, how we do park planning and apply for grants. So, I mean, I think it is something, I think actually our open space and recreation plan in 2017 identified the need for better, planning and patrolling. So I think it fits in the spirit of that. So it'd be good to take some initiatives there. So I'm generally supportive of the concept. I think it's a little soon to be pursuing an order, but I think, having putting together a group of folks who can kind of look what other communities do in terms of overseeing their parks would be helpful. And, I know I worked in Gloucester. They struggle with the issue of being a small city, of, being in the position of sending your police into, dense woods kind of thing. But on the other hand, how do you effectively have a ranger out there? So, and safely have a ranger, a little different in a city like ours, but I think it's worth, we should explore it. And, we both have, better, interaction with our public, with our parks, as well as to, create some visioning within the city structure. Thank you.
Councilor Angelo, will you lower your hand, please? And Councilor Condon.
Sure, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't think I can support this. I think you're creating another level of bureaucracy. I remember when we had the recreation commissioners, and things didn't work as well back then as they do now. You have Joe Levine and his assistant Laura that do a fantastic job. They do all the scheduling. There's no confusion. Years back, they would run to anybody that was on the recreation department and try to get scheduled or whatever they were trying to do. So I appreciate what Councilor O'Malley's trying to do, but I don't think we need another level of bureaucracy here. I think Joe is in full control. I've never seen it run any better. And, I'm not going to undermine the way things are going right now. So I don't think I could support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. You'll lower your hand, please. Councilor Lenahan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank Councilor O'Malley for putting out, a creative idea, a proposal for discussion. I'm definitely interested in talking more about it and learning more about it. I think, in my time as a resident, giving input to the open space plan, I'm definitely cognizant of the fact that this came up. I know just from sort of working in the field of open space and planning, it's something that I think about a lot. And also in my time on the redevelopment authority board, there did seem to be sort of this, we have an excellent recreation department and we have a lot of great people who oversee bringing in grants and proposals to improve the parks. But it always felt like there was maybe a missed opportunity to have that bigger picture, higher level position of some sort. I don't know what that looks like, but I think it's worth having the conversation to learn what other communities do that are comparable to us in size and have similar assets. And, I think we just want to make sure we make the most of our parks and make sure that new residents, can find them easily and know what the amenities are, and that there's a big picture looking at the grants and looking at the improvement and the access and all of those things. I think the notion of rangers is a little bit new to me, but again, I'm kind of feeling open to having that conversation, and I'm glad to have a proposal that maybe we could consider, and take it under a little bit more discussion. So that's kind of where I'm at on it.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Sika.
Thank you, Council President. Councilor O'Malley, have you spoken to anybody like the mayor's office or anybody else in City Hall to get the input that you have on this particular topic?
Chair, may I respond?
Please do, Councilor O'Malley.
Yeah, Councilor Sika, I have actually. I spoke with both Joe Levine, the recreation coordinator, as well as Bob Knox, the DPW director. One of the reasons why I did propose this is I don't think it's fair that Joe Levine's position is a coordinator level position. I think that he's definitely at least a manager, if not a director. So I think that Parks and Recreation deserves a director level position.
Okay. Did you speak to them before you put this agenda item on the docket or after you put the agenda item on the docket?
I spoke with about the same time. I couldn't get a hold of Bob until this weekend or Monday, but I did speak with Joe on Thursday or Wednesday. Okay.
So I guess my question, my concern is this whole recommendation, we have a whole restructuring program that is for the new charter. So I'm a little concerned with why we're bringing it up separately when it's actually, there's a whole new reconstruction on this exact topic in our city charter. So I think we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. We should work on charter review before we actually, do this. Did Mr. Levine sound enthused about this? Because your slides that you had just shown us all basically describes his job to a T. He's the Parks and Recreation. He's in charge of Parks and Recreation. So is this something that you want him to reapply for a different position? I'm just a little confused, and I like Councilor Condon, don't think that I can support this paper at this time.
Yeah, I wouldn't reveal a private conversation I had.
Okay, because I don't think that it was before you put it on the docket. I think it was after. So I will not be supporting this paper this evening. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilor Sika. Councilor Lenahan and Councilor Sika, would you please lower your hands? And Councilor Spatafora, you're up next.
Thank you, Mr. President. Councilor O'Malley, I just got a couple quick questions. I think as it came up early, and I think this is pertinent for this paper too as well. We would probably have to send this by legal, because I know some of the jobs that are described in the proposed ordinance are probably being done by multiple departments. So we would probably have to make sure, again, there's some union discussions going in here too, that we would have to make sure that we're not encroaching on their rights. I'm not saying it's a bad idea, but I just don't think I could support this time. The other thing I would ask is, if you are going to send it to ordinance, it probably should be sent along with finance too, because a creation of a department would need a funding mechanism. If it's a resolve, it's different. But I think before I would entertain going to the next step of park ranges, not that we don't need those services, I would want to see more funding given to the current DPW staff. because we are spending millions of dollars in our parks right now to update them. And while we always want them safe. We always want them to be a place where people can go no matter when. One of the questions that if you look and you see people have asked publicly, and then even working on a CPC application with Council Linehan and Councilor DiMaria, one of the questions is the deferred cost for these parks. So if we're going to be adding any type of staffing levels or increasing a budget right now, I would take that money at this time and send it to the DPW. I know Mr. Knox couldn't buy some snow fighting equipment, and I know he was in need of a new lawnmower last year. So I don't disagree with the safety aspect. I just think that we should worry about maintaining them first. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Spatafor. Councilor DiMaria.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you.
Councilor Spatafor, please lower your hand.
Sorry.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. So I do want to say to the sponsor, I very much appreciate your out-of-the-box thinking. I think with the money that we are investing in our parks citywide, that this is a wonderful concept. I think we're at the beginning stages of this, and certainly there's a lot of tweaking that could be going on, but I really think it's a great out-of-the-box thinking and definitely worth discussion. So I will be supporting this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Crowe.
Thank you, Mr. President. I agree with that, Councilor Winslow, actually, that I think an order is premature. I do think maybe pulling together some people, on sort of the both sides and really digging a little deeper, because as Councilor Sika mentioned that, what you had laid out, someone's already doing, or someone else had said, that multiple people are kind of doing that. So I really think a deeper dive, that we have something that we really can be voting on, because if you vote on this, even if you could send it to committee, but you have at least 2 new positions, and then a unit of ranges. I'm not sure what a unit is, if there's 2, 10, 5. I think it really needs, quite a bit of vetting. And so I would agree with almost like a white paper that really has things laid out, how it fits into the whole system.
Thank you. Councilor Murphy. Councilor Crowe, please lower your hand.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome.
As Chair finds, I've listened to what's been said here, and I would not support a resolve, because I think that puts it on the mayor's plate, and I don't think that that's what we as a council, if we come up with ideas, should be doing. I don't think we should be transferring it to the mayor to support an idea. I think we do need a white paper to actually outline exactly how this would work. Councilor O'Malley, I'd be happy to see, a full paper of how you think that, not only these positions will fit into the existing structure, but also the cost of these positions. And that, to send it to ordinance, it puts the burden on them. I think that, you should come to the council, with kind of a full thought of how you feel this is working, and maybe how some of these positions would be funded. And once again, I have actually spoken to a couple of folks, and, boots on the ground are really what we need. I don't think we need a director level position. I think we need people who are actually going to be able to go out, whether it's from the DPW Parks Department or whether it's from the Rec Department. We need people who are going to be, actually there and doing, kind of the actual day-to-day mission that needs to be done to support our parks and our structure. So I think, your thought process is good, but I think it's just a little premature. So I can't support this tonight, but if you came back to the council with maybe something a little bit more, thought through and vetted, then I'd be happy to speak about it.
Thank you, Councilor Murphy. Let me, if you lower your hand, Councilor Murphy, please.
I absolutely can. Thank you.
Thank you. From the chair, let me say that the concept of looking at our parks is worth considering. I think I've spoken in the past of the idea of not wanting to send policemen, someone with a badge and a gun into a park to break up somebody playing basketball when they shouldn't be, or a person doing things in the park that we could have less serious officials to handle that. So what the counselor is suggesting is worth looking at, but I think it needs a lot more of a look. I don't think an order is appropriate. First off, we can't order that this go into the budget, that this is, the mayor has to put together, if the mayor came down requesting that we just set up a department, that would be one thing. We could have a resolve. But what I'm going to suggest, Councilor O'Malley, if you would like, is that perhaps you might want a subcommittee that you would chair, and I'll allow any of the maybe 2 or 3 of other members of the council who would like to serve with you, that could do a little bit more fleshing out of working with the department heads and putting a little bit more meat on the bones of this, and talking it out and coming back in with a paper that we could all take a look at. That's what I would suggest would be a worthwhile point of view and a worthwhile step to take at this point. So with that, I only see one more hand up, and that is yours, Councilor O'Malley. So I'll give you the last word.
I agree with you, Council President Anderson. I think that would be a great way to kind of move forward with this. So I would move to propose that special committee to look into how exactly we reformulate our parks and recreation, particularly looking at the park ranger discussion.
And so I'll just say that if any councilors wish to, let's say 3 people, if anyone wishes to serve with Councilor O'Malley, who would chair this subcommittee, please get in touch with me, and I'd be glad to appoint you to that committee. Any disagreement with that?
No, it's great.
No?
Could we refer this paper to that committee?
On Councilor O'Malley's motion to refer this to a subcommittee that he would chair, call the
I'll second.
Parks, what?
Well, Parks and Recreation Ad Hoc Committee.
There we go, Parks, Recreation Ad Hoc Committee. Do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
Councilor Di Maria seconds that motion. The clerk will call the roll.
Kamel,
Yes.
Condon,
No.
Crow,
Yes.
Di Maria,
Yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
O'Malley,
Yes.
Sika,
No.
Betafora,
No.
Winslow,
Hello, Councilor Winslow.
Winslow, yes.
Anderson.
Anderson, yes.
Carries 8-3.
Okay, so we will send that to that subcommittee. Next order of business.
Paper 62-20 order, be it hereby ordained that Malden City Council at Chapter 6 of the revised ordinances of 2020 related to livery vehicles be amended by amending section 6.08.110.4.2 to read as follows. Number 2, livery businesses shall comply with zoning ordinances of the city of Malden and shall either include adequate off-street parking for all licensed vehicles or possess a current parking permit from the City of Malden Parking Department, allowing 1 livery vehicle to be parked on the street per residence, and by deleting section 6.080.110.4.4. Council Winslow.
Yeah.
On the paper, Councilor Winslow.
Yes, thank you. I know, a little over a year ago, we were working on an update to our livery ordinance that would allow shared vehicles to be parked on the streets. That was just pre-COVID. And parking director Hogan approached me. He said the past practice has been that the city would issue parking permits, one per residence, for people to have livery vehicles on the street. So, you know, I guess maybe in drafting this ordinance, we tighten it up a little bit more than practice was. So, you know, the concern was we didn't want to have people running Avis Rent-A-Car on the streets of Malden. You know, that's one of the things kind of is like the Airbnb of rent-a-cars is happening. So, and we've had some issues with, you know, in the past with people and Everett residents putting a bunch of cars on Malden streets to rent out. So, you know, we, you know, they'll take care of that kind of issue with the parking issue. But this does help in terms of someone can't have a license for that activity. They can only have a license for if they basically, you know, are using maybe their personal car to do some, you know, pickups and deliveries and that type of thing. So this came at the suggestion of parking department head Hogan, and we worked through the language. So it's just a tweak that was overlooked. So so that's, I just put it out there. If people have more questions, feel free to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Murphy.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. What I would say is if you're going to refer this to ordinance, I would like it to be referred to a joint license and ordinance meeting. I'm not on license at the moment, but having chaired it for the last couple of years, I think that the input of the license committee is key in drafting any type of ordinance change.
Right. That makes sense.
So I see no further, I see Councilor Lenahan. I think I saw quickly her hand up and then down. Councilor Lenahan, did you wish to speak?
Yeah, sorry. I just had a clarification question. So is this would only apply within the permit zone and only to cars registered in Malden? So like a Boston cab isn't going to be able to get that even if they live in the permit parking zone. Is that correct?
Yeah, the car would have to be registered in Malden. So it's really just trying to accommodate some people who part of their livelihood is to, you know, do pickups and deliveries with a vehicle that might have a commercial plate, but it has to be registered in Malden. It's not, you know, that would continue to be the case. So.
Okay, and I'm definitely sympathetic to that, and I think definitely have a lot of constituents that are driving for livery companies and that, you know, would be helped by that. I just was wondering where like a lot of my ward is split half and half with the permit parking and the not, and I think the commercial plates continue to be a little bit problematic in the area that is not permit parking. So just to have that I think it's an important thing to try to do, but I do think there's just that little piece of it that I'm going to have to think about too. So thank you for answering that.
Yeah.
I don't see any further hands up. Councilor, do we have a motion?
So I guess I'll make a motion to refer this to a joint Rules and Ordinance License Committee.
Seconded.
So we have a motion by Councilor Winslow, seconded by Councilor O'Malley.
Can I have a point of information?
On the motion, let's have some discussion. Go ahead, Councilor Spatafor. And Councilor Murphy, would you lower your hand, please?
Yeah,
Councilor Murphy.
Councilor Murphy wants to speak again. So.
Okay.
So the only thing I would say, and I'm not opposed to the joint, but you can ask the clerk when we do refer to joint meetings. It takes up a lot of time in terms of all night. And I'm not saying that, like, I'll give you an example. Like the last one was the trash. We had to have every member here. Would it be okay if we just refer to ordinance and invite the licensing board that way for quorum's sake and just easy scheduling? I know Clerk Lucy and me, we had a challenge when you try to get joint meetings because you have to get everybody, and you can't have other meetings happening when you have such a large group of licensing and potentially ordinance and finance. So I'm fine either way. I'm just saying logistically it gets a little bit of a challenge, but I'll leave it up to the Council Murphy and the sponsor Winslow. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Murphy again.
Thank you. And as I said, I'm not even unlicensed at the moment.
Yeah.
But just having spent the last 2 years as chair and many years before that as a member, the issue of livery licenses becomes an issue in densely populated areas. So, Councilor Linehan, your area basically, has a lot more area where it's probably not a problem. But when you get into the denser areas of Ward 7, Ward 1, 5-1, it is a problem. And I know it's people's livelihoods, but you do have a lot of on-street parking that, especially in winter months, becomes very stressful for residents. So I do think the license committee needs to be heard on this, and I feel very strongly that this needs to be a joint meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilor. Let's hear from the license committee chair, Councilor Condon.
I would love to meet with Councilor Spatafora's committee, and we would have a quorum there, and so I look forward to that if he wants me.
If he wants you.
Right.
Thank you, Councilor.
I don't have a second on that. Move on.
So Councilor Murphy and Councilor Condon, please lower your hands.
Call the question.
So good.
So we have a motion that's been moved and seconded to refer this to a joint license and rules and ordinance committee. The clerk will call the roll.
Kamel,
Yes.
Condon,
Yes.
Crowe,
Yes.
DeMaria,
Yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
O'Malley, yes.
Sika,
Sika, yes.
Spatafora,
Spatafora, yes.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Anderson.
Anderson, yes. So that paper has been referred to a joint license and rules and ordinance committee. Next order of business.
Paper 67-21, order, be it hereby ordained that the City of Malden revised ordinances of 2020, section 11.24.020, citing and installation of wireless communications equipment, be amended by adding the following additional languages. Number 1, F, dimensions and appearance by adding small cell antennas cannot be mounted no closer than 12 feet from the nearest window, deck, or other publicly accessible area. In addition, while the antenna shape is akin to a rounded cone, these antennas are directionally in nature, with the signal primarily focused up and down streets and not directly into the residents behind the pole. Number 2, L, contents of written petition by adding the carrier would then be required to attach a notice of public meeting to the pole. 3, adding warning sticker and node ID utilize the smallest and lowest visibility, for example, yellow instead of blue, radio frequency, warning sticker required by government or electric utility regulations. Place the RF sticker as close to the antenna as possible, facing directly out toward the street or directly away from the street if there's no window within 25 feet of the pole preferred. For the node ID sticker, avoid the use of larger and high visible site node identification tags with carrier's phone number. Consider combining with disconnect information. Use sticker colors that are more muted, for example, tan, such as the same color as the equipment, but with white color lettering. Consider placing the node ID sticker on the underside of the equipment enclosure so it is only visible underneath. Number 4, request a street tree to be provided by the wireless carrier for each facility mounted on a pole within the public right-of-way in order to screen the equipment. In the event a tree cannot be planted due to conflicts such as existing trees, driveways, or utility infrastructure linked to location requirements, the wireless carrier would be required to pay an in lieu fee, not less than $75 to be used by the Malden DPW Urban Forestry Project and shall be payable prior to the city's issuance of the small cell permit. And number 5, all small cells will be posted on the site's GIS system and accessible to the public. Councilor Spatafora.
Councilor Spatafora for the paper.
Just briefly, I'm going to send this to ordinance, but as you can tell, some of those are not my ideas, but certainly some of the best and brightest throughout the country. Based on the last paper I put in terms of the zoning issues, which we know was probably a grand scheme, these are some of the cleanups. One is Council Winslow had that concern on the last one about how close it was to the peak of the roof, safety to make sure that they identify if there is radiation, contact information for shutoffs, as well as trees. Some cities are really making them put. The cities that own the poles are getting big money. We don't own our poles. So what they do instead is they make them put in greenery to either cover it with signage and or add trees to city accounts. So these are just basic cleanup things. And the other one I think was a good idea. It's actually based on a resident, is putting all these on GIS. So when there are ones added, not only do we see what they look like in plots, but the residents also know where they are as well on the system. So similar to a Google Maps, but again, everything's being referred to ordinance, and I look for your support. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilor O'Malley.
Thank you, Chair. I generally think this is a good idea to kind of get more specificity. And, I think that's something that I'd be looking for here. I think some of what you're asking for is not legal. I think there needs to be like a nexus between the impact of something and what kind of mitigation we put on it. So I support some of the things you have. I do think it needs to be flushed out more, but I do think that's something that happens in ordinance. So I am looking forward to having that conversation, but we should make sure that we run this by legal.
Yep.
John, we're going to get your as many billable hours as possible out of you. So looking forward to that conversation in ordinance.
Thank you, Councilor O'Malley. Any other comments on the motion to refer to rules and ordinance? Do I have a second to that motion?
Second.
Councilor Crowe seconds that motion. The clerk will call the roll.
Kamel,
Yes.
Condon, Crow,
Yes.
DeMaria,
DeMaria, yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
O'Malley, yes.
Sika,
Sika, yes.
Spatafora,
Got a 4 yes.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Anderson.
Anderson, yes.
Carries 10-0.
That paper's been referred to rules and ordinance. Next order of business.
Paper 61-20, order that the city of Malden, in order to comply with the open meeting law, improve function, ensure public transparency, clarify the process for posting public meeting agendas on the city website, and how the public can easily access posted agendas.
Councilor O'Malley for the paper.
Thank you, Chair. This is kind of part 2 of a conversation we had when we were still at the senior center. Back, I'm not sure what year it was. I guess maybe it was 2019. Mayor Christensen changed the way in which we posted public meetings from physically at City Hall through the city clerk's office to posting online through the website. At the time, I had said that I found that a little bit difficult.
That was 5:30, right? No, that's okay. This one?
Go and look at what's on the docket, what's coming up the next week, kind of browse it. I found it a little easier to kind of find out what's going on. And, the other side of that was also, I thought, a little more challenging for some of our older residents to know what's going on, considering it was only on the website. That vote did not go my way, so that was fine. Since then, using the City of Malden, website, I found it difficult finding what meetings are available. Right now, what we say is you have to go to www.cityofmalden.org to look at meeting agendas. But then once you get to that landing page, it's not clear where you go to get the agendas. There are two calendars. So it's not always quite clear. Sometimes it shows up on one calendar. Sometimes it shows up on another calendar. There's this thing called an agenda center that's not that easy to get to. So I just think that the way we currently have it is not complying and is not as easy for our residents to find out what meetings are going on. So I'm hoping that we as a city can work to make that a little bit more improved. It sounds like everyone's very sensitive about orders recently. So if we would like this to be a resolve instead, I'm open to a friendly amendment, but I'm interested in hearing the discussion.
Thank you, Council. Councilor Winslow. Councilor Winslow, please unmute.
Yeah,
There you
sorry.
go.
So I'm just thinking maybe this would be something for the Citizens Engagement Committee to invite, our city clerk and Ron Cochran from the city to just discuss this and make it a little more, both of them work on these kind of communications. So maybe it's just a coordination thing and to have that discussion. It's a citizens engagement issue, I really think. So maybe that'd be the way, just to invite those folks to a Citizens Engagement Committee to talk about that. I do find it, it's 3 clicks to find an agenda. It's not very easy the way it's set up, and can it be streamlined and made easier? I do it because I'm familiar with it, but it can be daunting to try to find all that. You got to click on the meeting, then you click on something that says the agenda, and that brings up another link to get. It's clunky to say the least. So is there a way to do it better with the systems we have? I think that perhaps as a Citizen Engagement Committee matter. So that would be my suggestion.
I would second that motion to refer.
Thank you, Councilor Winslow. Councilor Lenahan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was just going to say I agree with Councilor Winslow's suggestion. It does feel like something where we could be really productive in engagement. And I've found, working with Ron Cochran, who obviously has gotten a lot busier this year doing Zoom and a lot of things that weren't part of his job description a year ago. Obviously, that's a huge challenge, but I find that he's very receptive still. And I think the back end of kind of the web infrastructure, the meat of what we want to share is all there. It's just more like, how do we organize it, or can we consolidate or streamline? So I think that we could have a productive discussion around that. I definitely hear from constituents a lot who either struggle to find the council meetings and then versus the committee meetings, and then who's on each committee. And then if you want to know what night like school committee and the CPC is, those are in yet 2 other locations. So I think there's definitely opportunities to talk about how we could improve this. And I think that they would probably be open to that. So I'm definitely in favor of having that discussion there.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor DiMaria and Councilor Winslow and Councilor Lenahan, please lower your hands.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I certainly would be more than happy to take that on with citizen engagement. And I will second that motion.
Okay, so the sponsor, Councilor O'Malley, would you change your order from an order to a resolve and then refer that to the Citizen Engagement Committee?
I move to amend the paper from an order to a resolve and refer to the Citizen Engagement Committee.
Do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
Who did that?
DiMaria.
DiMaria seconded. Clerk will call the roll.
Kamel.
Oh, yes.
Condon.
Condon, yes.
Crowe.
Yes.
DiMaria.
Yes.
Linehan.
Linehan, yes.
Murphy.
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley.
O'Malley, yes.
Sika.
Sika, yes.
Spatafora. Spatafora.
Sorry, I stuck it on mute. Spatafora, yes.
Winslow.
Winslow, yes.
Anderson.
Anderson, yes. Paper has been changed to a resolve and referred to the Citizen Engagement Committee. Next order of business. Councilor DiMaria, please lower your hand.
Paper 63-21, order that the Public Facilities Director on behalf of the city come before the City Council to offer an update on the status of the Oak Grove Community Building, condition, what is being used for, maintenance, structural integrity, and what the overall future plan is. Councilors DiMaria, O'Malley, Linehan, and Winslow.
Councilor DiMaria for the paper.
Thank you, Mr. President. And to give everybody a little bit of a background, the first snow in Malden, a bunch of us got together, and Councilors Linehan and Councilor O'Malley, some wonderful friends, Ari Taylor from Ward 5, Karen Hayes from Ward 3, and we got together and decided to shovel out the Oak Grove Community Center. And as we're doing that, we met a wonderful public facilities gentleman who was also doing the sidewalk, and we had a great conversation with him. And after we did it, we said, we really need to know what's going on with this building. It's such a beautiful building, which is right near Oak Grove Station. Many of you know where it is. And it's been part of our DNA for many, many years. So I reached out to Director Eric Rubin. I said, what do you think? Would you mind if I, put an order on there to come in front of us? And he said, Counselor, I'd be glad to. So I do hope to get your support tonight and those of my fellow co-sponsors as well.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor, would you, I'd suggest that instead of it coming to the council, that it come to the Public Properties Committee. And so you can discuss it as a committee. You've got much more time that way, as opposed to coming before the full city council, just like Councilor Winslow did with the police a few meetings ago. Taking on a department like that, and the council committee that has jurisdiction over that area handle that in the 5:30 block hour.
Would certainly do whatever the council believes, but I think the information that Director Rubin would bring to us would be very important to all of us as city councilors, since it's one of our valuable historic buildings. So whatever the flavor is of the council, I personally think he could be a guest, as we've had many guests, and I'm sure that if there's time constraints, we can tell them, okay, you only have so much time, ready to go. So, but certainly whatever the councilors want to do.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor O'Malley. You're still muted. Yep.
Sorry. Thank you, Councilor President. I want to thank Councilor DeMaria for moving this discussion forward. I think that this has been something that has been a priority of mine, is getting this particular community asset opened again. During one of the funding cycles for the Community Preservation Committee, the council actually did vote to allow community groups to submit proposals to try to reopen this building and get it ADA accessible. Currently, it's being used as the city archives. So I am open to even meeting as a full council to discuss it, or to meet in public properties. I will leave it up to the will of the council. But I do appreciate the help trying to get this building back open again. And that's kind of where I'm at. I appreciate the
Okay.
fact that you brought this up.
Yeah, I only suggest that it gives you chairs of these various committees to chair your meeting over the area that your subcommittee deals with. So that's just my suggestion. Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. President. And, Councilor President, I agree with you. I think sometimes we get a little bit set aside on bringing everything to the council. We set up committees to kind of vet things, to bring them to the committee of the whole. The committee is a total. Just like I brought Nate Kramer in from the Assessors Department to Finance a couple of weeks ago to talk about the changes he's made and what he's done, so that we can actually have a conversation and bring things to the full council without tying up a lot of time of some other things that we might be able to work on. So, the Oak Grove Community Center is something that is near and dear to my heart. I had my son's 6th birthday party there because, believe it or not, at one point, where I live in 28 Forest Street, Ward 5 was actually part of Ward 4. So I enjoyed participating in that community, program, and being able to access that community, forum, to be able to do something for my son and also to see other people there. So I'm in full support of the Oak Grove Community Building being reopened to the general public. How we do that, I think, is a huge undertaking, and we need to speak through it, understand what the finances are, et cetera. But I do think that the Public Properties Department, who is in control of our city resources, is where it should start. And then from there, it should come out to the full city council. So I'm not against, Councilor O'Malley, anything you've said. I just think it should take a little bit of a different direction, as Councilor President had said. And then once it's vetted, then come back to the full city council.
Thank you, Councilor Murphy. Anyone else wishing to speak? Councilor Lenahan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to say, as the chair of public property, I'm more than welcome to have this come before the committee. I do think, obviously I signed on to co-sponsor this because I do think that there's a lot of value in the community hearing the direction of any of our publicly owned assets. And as Councilor O'Malley said, it is being utilized for a citywide purpose to store archives. And possibly he and I are biased because we hear so much from constituents about, memories of the building. And like Councilor Murphy said, I think there's this zone around there where a lot of people that have lived their whole lives in that neighborhood around Oak Grove have been in, 2 or 3 different wards over their lifetime as the lines have been drawn, and everyone feels a sense of ownership and memory over that building. But having said that, if others don't have additional, input, or if others don't prefer for it to come to the full council, I'm happy to docket it at public property. We do have a fairly full dance card coming up. We do more than just small cells, so I will fit it in as soon as possible if that's the way we want to go. But I appreciate folks being interested in the future of the building. It's definitely something that I think is important, citywide.
Thank you, Councilor. Yeah, so I'm suggesting that the order be redirected to public properties.
I would make a motion.
Do I have a motion for that, to that effect?
Can I have an amendment?
Motion that it would be amended to send to public properties.
Public properties. Thank you. And wishing to speak on that is Councilor Spatafora.
I'm sorry, I didn't raise my hand. I'm so afraid of you yelling at me to take it down. I didn't.
Oh, take it down.
Can I just, if you're going to send it to public properties, where I think it probably naturally resides anyways, because if there's any corrective action, you can do it right from there. Would you want to invite or send it to the Disability Commission too, considering you're looking from the ADA compliance point? That might be another committee that might be useful for that. A joint meeting? Because I know you mentioned ADA, and I know that's always been a topic there. But if you just want to go to public property, that's fine. But I thought maybe the Disability Commission would be a good resource to have there.
And to that, I would just simply say that they could certainly invite the folks from the Disabilities Commission that would like to sit in on that, but limit it to the City Council subcommittee and invite the people in that you want. That's would be my suggestion. I see Councilor DiMaria has her hand up, and I'll go to Councilor DiMaria.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I think we should, in my view, I love the idea. Send it to public properties. We have the chair saying that she will be glad to do that. I would only welcome all city councilors to join in that night. Yep. And I actually, at this level, a disabilities commission might be a great way to go as a part 2, but as a part 1, I think we need to hear the review from our director, Ruben. So I would second that motion Councilor Murphy made. Thank you.
Any other discussion on the motion to refer this paper to public properties? Seeing no other hands, the clerk will call the roll.
Kamel.
Kamel, yes.
Condon.
Condon, yes.
Crow.
Yes.
DiMaria.
DiMaria, yes.
Lenahan.
Lenahan, yes.
Murphy.
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley.
O'Malley, yes.
Sika.
Sika, yes.
Spatafora. Spatafora. Craig, you're on
Spatafora,
mute.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Winslow.
And so, yes.
Anderson.
Anderson, yes. So that paper has been referred to public properties. Next order of business.
Okay, I do have a letter to read with this. The paper is 64-20, order that the appropriation enumerated below being in the amount of $30,000 be appropriated from the Community Preservation Act Fund for the following project: Kierstead Antarctica Parks revitalizations in Willow Street Recreational Corridor, master plan and 25% down design $30,000 from budget reserve account, total appropriation $30,000. And if I can read the mayor's letter. Dear members of City Council, I write to ask for the City Council support to fund the attached project for Kierstead and Tatakoff Parks presented to me by the Community Preservation Committee. In reaching their decision, the CPC found that the project meets eligibility requirements and aligns with the priorities stated in Malden's Community Preservation Plan. This project was also the subject of a public hearing of the CPC held on August 12, 2020. The vital role that our open space and recreational assets play has become even more evident during the current health crisis, and this project will greatly benefit our community. This request is for $30,000 of Community Preservation Act funds for the planning and design and revitalization of both Kierstead and Tatakoff Parks. I'm attaching the CPC's project description, which describes this as the first step in undertaking much needed capital improvements. Councilors Neil Anderson and Steve Winslow have committed to working with the community to garner input from the neighborhoods in creating the design. Attached is the official appropriation request, and please let me know if you have any questions. In the meantime, please join me in thanking the members of the Community Preservation Committee for the continued hard work and dedication. Thank you for your consideration. Sincerely, Mayor Gary Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Lucy. For the paper, Councilor Murphy.
Yes, motion to refer to finance.
Thank you. Before you, we get a motion in second. Councilor Winslow, did you want to say anything about this?
Yes. No, it's fantastic to see this coming through. Councilor Anderson, we've got the ball rolling on it already. So we've had a lot of input from the community already. So this, we could kind of finance with some mitigation money, a couple meetings, but this will allow the process to go completely to the master plan and put the projects in the potential to apply for some grants and also tap some more mitigation money that Councilor Anderson has. So it's exciting. We got the ball rolling, and hopefully that'll result in some really next tangible steps very shortly. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor O'Malley.
I just want to say congratulations to Councilor Anderson and Councilor Winslow on this. I think this is a great project, and it's really great to see the CPC as an ally working towards making this stretch of land more equitable and more recreational for the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, councilors. I don't see no other hand. Councilor Di Maria, is that an old hand that you've got up there?
Oh, it is. It's a very old hand. Thank you.
Okay. I see no other request to speak on the motion to refer this paper to finance. All those, the clerk will call the roll.
And Councilor Di Maria seconded that?
Yes,
Did I get
sir.
that right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Kamel,
Yes.
Condon,
Yes.
Crow,
Yes.
Di Maria,
Yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
Malley, yeah.
Sika,
Siki, yes.
Pettifora,
Metaphor, yes.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Anderson.
Anderson, yes. That paper has been referred to the Finance Committee. Next order of business.
Under committee reports, paper 65-21, committee report, license petition, paper 340-20, Brothers Auto, no action taken.
Councilor Condon.
Move to receive the committee report.
On Councilor Condon's motion to receive the committee report, the clerk will call the roll.
Kamel,
Kamel, yes.
Condon,
Yes.
Crow,
Yes.
Di Maria,
Yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
Present.
Sika,
Siki, yes.
Pettifora,
Metaphor, yes.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Anderson.
Anderson, yes. Committee report has been received. Councilor Condon.
Thank you, Council President. I'd like to briefly go over some of the issues that the License Committee discussed last week regarding Ms. LaFoisse's license. Mr. LaFosse doesn't reside in Malden, has no place of business in Malden. The address identified in the license application, he does not live at or own. Mr. LaFosse had a Class 2 dealer's license issued by the city of Revere, and the licensing authorities revoked that license. Mr. LaFosse continued to sell used cars in Revere at his Revere Auto Shop repair, using his Malden license. Mr. LaFosse's license is a zero storage license. Our city was contacted by the state police to inform us that Mr. LaFosse was using the Malden license at auctions to buy vehicles at the same time then storing them in his repair shop in Revere for sale. Mr. LaFosse is using the zero car license inconsistent with the ordinances and regulations. Those are some of the issues that we talked over. There was a motion made by the Ward 8 councilor to revoke the license. That was a 3-2 vote not to revoke it. The next one to make a motion was Councilor Anderson, who made a motion to approve the license, which didn't get a second. And the final motion was made by Councilor Seeker to report the committee report out to the full council without recommendation. So that, in a nutshell, are some of the issues that came up. As the chairman, I think if I was advising Mr. LaFosse, I think that he should work on straightening out his situation with the Revere licensing board. I know there's been some disagreements with the fire department on what has to be done to the building. And there was a question of whether or not the taxes were fully up to date. And I'd be advising him to straighten out a situation with Revere where he does all the work and sells the cars. So at this time, I think everybody should have gotten a packet yesterday. So if you have questions, I'd like to open it up to the council, and maybe the Ward 8 council would like to chime in here.
Councilor Condon, Councilor Anderson has his hand up.
Okay. Councilor Anderson.
Yes, thank you. If I may, from the chair, if that's okay. We have the petitioner that's here this evening. Councilor Condon told one version of the story. We have the petitioner and his representative that's here. I think it would be worthwhile for us to hear what the petitioner has to say about what has taken place. It was much more than what was described by the chair. So if it's all right with the chairperson, could we ask Attorney Callahan, who represents Brothers Auto, to speak?
Absolutely.
City Clerk, really fast, do we have to take a vote on that?
You would, because they're not part of the council. So it'd be like if you were in the senior center, you brought someone up, to speak. That's what you would do.
Okay.
I'll second Counselor Anderson. I'll make the motion to hear.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Kamel,
Yes.
Condon,
Yes.
Crow,
Yes.
DeMaria,
Yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy. 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 I see you looking at me.
And I'm sorry. I
That's all right.
didn't realize that. Yes.
O'Malley.
Yes.
Sika.
Sika, yes.
Spatafora.
That for yes.
Winslow.
Winslow, yes.
Anderson.
Anderson, yes.
Okay.
I trust
Mr. Callahan. Yeah.
I trust you're ready for me.
Yes.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the council. My name is Thomas Callahan with offices at 1 Center Street in Malden. I'm here representing Kenneth LaFosse, doing business as Brothers Auto Body. I'd like to just give you a very quick overview, and then I'll address some of the issues raised by Councilor Condon from the License Committee hearing of a week ago. It's our belief that we are in full conformance with the requirements of the Class 2 license. Mr. LaFosse has had this license for 35 years, and we believe it's worthy of being renewed. This is a no storage license, as I believe Councilor Condon mentioned, so it predates the requirements in 1999 requiring storage. We have provided the necessary bond to the council, and again, we feel that we are ready to have the license renewed. Brothers Auto Body repairs motor vehicles, but it also purchases salvage vehicles at auction for resale, and that's what the Class 2 license is about: is the resale of those vehicles. Let me tell you briefly how Mr. LaFosse conducts that piece of his business. He has a customer that comes to him and asks for a particular type of vehicle, a make, a model, a year. Of course, it can't be, that order can't be fitted exactly, but he does his best. So he finds a salvage vehicle, or two if he needs it. If one has front end damage, he may need another vehicle of the same vintage to use to replace that front end. Then he purchases those vehicles at salvage at auction, and then repairs them. Once he repairs them, he takes them to the RMV inspection site, and those are closely scrutinized, since they're obviously there's been major repairs. And then once the vehicle passes, he sells that vehicle to the customer. So that's the nexus or the crux of his business. Councilor Condon mentioned that he was not a Malden resident and did not have a Malden address. We requested that the application be amended at the License Committee to the address of 511, 513 Broadway, where Mr. LaFosse has secured office space. Again, no storage, but he does have office space there. And I believe that certainly addresses any issue on whether he has a Malden situs or a Malden address. So if I may, I just want to bring up one item in case it does come up that Councilor Condon did not mention, and that was a discussion at the License Committee about the safety of these vehicles. And there was an insinuation that somehow these vehicles may be unsafe. And I don't believe the council has any evidence in front of it or any information in front of it that would indicate that Mr. LaFosse has had any problems or complaints or difficulty with the quality of his work. And I think that's an issue that really is not worthy of further discussion. but I just want to mention that from the onset, because that's why the RMV does the serious inspection of these vehicles, and that's their purview to be certain that the refurbished vehicle is roadworthy and ready to be safe. So Council Condon's first issue was the Malden address, which again, we have an office at 511, 513. Just note that the application needs to be amended to reflect that address. Council Condon is correct when he speaks about the revocation of the Class 2 license in Revere, but also mentioned, as I would mention and will mention, that there are issues with the fire department, and perhaps there was issues with back taxes. So that is between Mr. LaFosse and the city of Revere, and he's actively addressing that. I know the state police, Council Condon mentioned the state police have been involved. Mr. LaFosse had an incident in 2017 where 2 Cadillac Escalades were merged or melded together, as I described earlier. One had extensive front end damage, and so he took 2 Cadillac Escalades, one in 2011 and the other in 2013, and brought them together. There was some confusion because the car, the newly refurbished car, was labeled a 2013 Cadillac Escalade by Mr. LaFosse, but there was a replacement of the dashboard. With the dashboard was the glove compartment, and in the glove compartment is a VIN number, a vehicle identification number, and that corresponded with the 2011 Cadillac Escalade, and that was on his manifest of repair parts, that he took the 2011 dashboard and put it onto the 2013. It's really the body of the 2013. So there was, some confusion with all of that, and certainly misunderstanding, and that was a problem for Mr. LaFosse, and remains a problem. But we suggest to you that Mr. LaFosse deserves a second chance to rectify that, and because we have always found, myself, I have used Mr. LaFosse for car repair and for the last 30 years, and have always found him to be a good businessman, an honest businessman, and I would certainly vouch for Mr. LaFosse personally. This is Mr. LaFosse's livelihood. I know that may not impress some, but it is his livelihood. He has 10 employees, and we certainly ask for your careful consideration of this. I know no one on the council wants to take one's livelihood away from them, but of course you have your job to do and your scrutiny to undertake. But I would again ask that you seriously look at this, and I know we've provided a letter from Bill Dempsey, who is well known in the community, vouching for Mr. LaFosse's character, and I'm certainly here to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
So thank you, Mr. Callahan. If I still have the floor, I would just add to this, and these are the things I've said in the license committee, and I've said to most of you on the council who I've called and talked in detail about what has taken place. If you think about the problems of a VIN number, what comes to mind is this guy doing chop shop work? Is he taking and trying to scam people by selling them a car that's not really as new as what he's saying it is? And that's what was implied by the state police when they questioned the VIN number that was found in the glove compartment of this 2013 that he was refurbishing. So Mr. LaFosse, who is someone who I've known for a lot of years, and I consider him not just my friend, but my good friend. I mean, a guy who I've been to his home, I've eaten at his table. I know when he's telling me something, I wasn't there with this when he was interacting with the state police, but I believe his recitation of that. And I feel that the 25 or 30 years or so that he's been in Malden, you know, this is a Malden family that's been here for that many years. We haven't had, as a city council, complaints about Mr. LaFoss's work. We haven't had customers that have come back complaining that he sold them cars that couldn't get inspected, or that he's stiffed anyone. You know, he has told in detail what has happened with the state police and how the state police have been harassing him, being unwilling to inspect his vehicles. And we can go into a little bit more of that if that's necessary, but I've already covered much of that with you all, and I'll leave that at that point. So I would urge that Mr. LaFosse has been around long enough time for us to be issuing this guy his opportunity to continue his livelihood and not putting 10 people in the street. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. LaFosse, did I cover it all?
You did. Thank you.
Okay.
Councilor Condon, hand up.
Am I hosting this meeting?
You are.
Okay. I
Well,
don't know if I should pass it to the council president.
So you're not technically.
Yeah, okay.
It's the.
Councilor Seeker.
Thank you. So on behalf of Ward 8, and I am the counselor of this ward that Mr. LaFosse's Class 2 dealer's license has been in and will be transferred into. I have a few issues with the renewal of this license. Mr. Callahan mentioned that Mr. LaFosse has had this license for 35 plus years, which is true. Recently, within the last year, we have now required a query in order to issue licenses in the city of Malden. We revamped license committee regulations over the last couple of years. I put in for a Class 2 moratorium where we did our due diligence and changed fees and how we went about issuing and renewing these Class 2 dealers. So while Mr. LaFosse has had a Class 2 dealer's license in the city of Malden for over 35 years, it was just brought to our attention within the last year of his query. And that alone should be reason enough for us to not renew this application before us this evening, along with the fact that we are aware Mr. LaFosse is conducting business out of Revere with his Malden license. And although for however many long, I'm not sure how long he's had the Revere license, but we haven't had any issues with Mr. LaFosse's license because he's literally had it in his back pocket and he was using the Revere license to conduct his business at these auctions up until they did not renew his license last year. So when he went to the auction and they asked him what he was doing there because his license wasn't renewed, he pulled his Malden license out of his back pocket. So Mr. LaFosse has only been using this license since maybe March. I don't remember the exact date from the paperwork that we received, March or June. It was something along those lines. And since then, on June 23rd, we had the state police reach out to the city clerk. On December 1st, we had the state police reach out to the city clerk. Mr. LaFosse did not meet the guidelines for the Class 2 dealer's license, and that's why he sought out some office space at 511, 513 Broadway. I had compliance go by 511, 513 Broadway today. There's about 3,400 square feet of space at this particular location. There is already 3 businesses being conducted out of this particular location. And Mr. LaFosse does not have his own office space. He'll be sharing a counter that one of the current businesses currently use. And I just don't feel confident that Mr. LaFosse is actually going to be doing his paperwork there or selling his cars there. They're being fixed in Revere. I think that he should, if in fact his license in Revere was not renewed for multiple fire issues, then he should probably correct those fire issues, and he should get the Class 2 dealers renewed in Revere once he completes those. I don't think he should be granted this license in Malden when it's clearly a license for Brothers Auto Body, which resides on Naples Road in Revere. So if anybody has any questions, I've reached out to the License Commission in Revere. I've spoken to the fire chief in Revere. The state police have reached out to me regarding this license. And I just don't think that, I think we're setting a horrible precedent if we renew this license. And I would like to deny it based on the fact that his quarry alone should be looked at. We should not be renewing this license based on his quarry alone. So thank you.
I'm not sure who had their hand up next.
Councilor Di Maria.
Councilor Di Maria.
Thank you, both counselors. So I have to say that it's very, very disturbing to me in the 8 years that I've been on this city council that we now bring it to the floor for a decision. We have committee meetings to help flush out all these issues. And it's very hard for me to receive, disturbing email deliberations that some counselors are sending to the entire council after many open meeting law complaints. So that's my first gripe. Who may I ask just a couple of questions to whomever wants to answer it? Has our compliance officers deemed this license inappropriate, or have they given us their blessing, or what has our two compliance officers done with this? Maybe Councilor Condon?
I haven't spoken to the two compliance people. I knew Councilor Sika asked them to go down. Perhaps she got some feedback from them.
Councilor Sika?
I'm just wondering if they're actually on this meeting. I'm looking, hold on. I think,
If I may respond when you get a chance.
yeah. Hold on. I don't see them, but I have spoken to them, and they are against the renewal of this Class 2 dealer, Councilor Di Maria.
Okay, it would be really, I certainly believe you, Councilor Sika, but I think that's what they're, I would like to hear from them. So that's one thing. The other question that I have back to Councilor Condon is, if Mr. LaFosse has a business at 511, 513 Broadway, who is the landlord? Who is the landlord of that business?
The landlord of that 511, 513 Broadway is Michael Sullivan.
Mr. Callahan?
Yes, thank you. It's actually Viper.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is Council. Oh, yeah, I'm in charge. Go ahead. I thought this was a license committee. Forgive me. Councilor Callahan.
Yes, Councilor Di Maria, it's actually Viper Trust with Michael Sullivan, as Councilor Sika said, trustee. That's the trust is the owner of the property.
So it's Viper Trust.
Viper Trust, yes.
Okay. And I'm really, really just very disturbed and concerned that we're back at the floor to make this decision. I am in no way ready to make any decision tonight on this. I know we received many, many emails from many counselors and phone calls, But I just really feel there was a vote, 3 votes, a vote to revoke, and that failed, a vote to approve, and that didn't get a second, and then a vote to report it to the full council. I just think our due diligence is not done, and I am not willing to put somebody out of business after 35 years, but I am, very willing to hear, what Mr. LaFosse is all about, because we do want upstanding businesses in Malden. We take our pride in that. So I think that's my gripes tonight. I am not willing to vote anything, and I yield my time.
Councilor DiMaria, do you mind if I answer a couple of her questions?
Go ahead, Councilor Seeger.
I apologize. Councilor DiMaria, there's plenty of committees that we vote not to recommend things out to the full council. This happens to be one of them. This isn't something that we never do and is unprecedented. We do this all the time. We've done this plenty of times over the last 8 years, where we can't make a decision in the committee of the members of the committee. So we vote to take it, remove it out without any recommendation. So that we didn't do anything that we don't usually do. We've done this before. And as far as Mr. LaFosse's livelihood, we are not the ones that are going to be ruining his livelihood. Mr. LaFosse ruined his livelihood when he was not doing the right thing, okay? And he still owns an auto body repair shop. This isn't his primary business. He does own an auto body repair shop where he fixes cars. So this is not going to ruin Mr. LaFosse's livelihood. And he can go and get this Class 2 dealers in Revere if he just fixes his fire issues, the fire codes that he has. That's their issues with him. So he should go get a Class 2 dealer's license in the city that he's conducting business in. If the tables were reversed and we had a Class 2 dealer selling cars with a Revere license in Malden, Dave and Jim would be going and putting a cease and desist letter on their front door, and they would be no longer operating in the city of Malden. This is no different. This man is using his Class 2 dealers in Revere, and even though he has 511 and 513 Broadway, there's not a doubt in my mind he's going to continue to conduct business in the city of Revere. Therefore, he should get a Class 2 dealer's license in that city, not Malden.
Thank you. I yield
If
my
I
time,
might,
Councilor Anderson. I yield my time.
If I might, from the chair, because I'm under criticism, obviously. We got the package that day, and there were 3 motions made. One to revoke that didn't pass. Councilor Anderson made a motion that couldn't get a second. And over the last 30 years, probably 50 to 75 times, I've seen numerous times where committee makes a motion, it's a legitimate motion, to report it out to the full council, who has to vote on everything that comes out of committee. You're gonna have to vote on it anyways. I made sure, I didn't have a printer yesterday to scan anything. I made sure that it was sent out yesterday, so you had a full night and a full day to review everything that we reviewed. So when you're at that stage in the committee where you can't get a second, there wasn't a vote to revoke his license, then you have no problem. I have no problem reporting it out to the floor, who has to vote on it anyways. It is not a big issue. If you don't want to vote on it, don't vote on it. But you had plenty of time to review everything that we had.
Councilor Murphy.
Okay, so 2 years ago, as license chair, I took on the challenge of relooking at how we awarded licenses. And I found that we needed to make some changes, and we did. I worked with the city clerk's office, and we came up with a process of how we were going to review new licenses and renewal licenses. And they included making sure that they had a bond, that they had a query, that they had the appropriate license from the state. And we also had long discussions about two different types of licenses. We had a license that's called a grandfathered license, which is a license that was given years ago when the ordinances were changed. And there was an ordinance in place to keep those grandfathered licenses there for businesses who maybe owned a gas station and once or twice a year went to the dealership to get a car and fix it up and kind of augment their income. And there were a couple of licenses where folks were just, kind of avid, car folks who maybe went and bought a used car for their family, et cetera, and fixed it up in their backyard. And then there were the actual dealer licenses, which required, because at that point in time, the ordinance, before my time, the ordinance was changed to require you had to have a space for 15 licenses, 15 cars to house before you could have a dealer's license. So we have a very limited number of what we call grandfathered licenses. And as I said, those licenses were for, the gas station that was in the corner in your neighborhood who had two cars. The fellow you knew who was kind of a car addict who went to the auction every once in a while and bought a car. So what we're talking about here now is we're talking about a grandfathered license that has 0 cars associated with it, but is, conducting a business that's not in the city of Malden. And I think that's what Councilor Seeker is alluding to, but hasn't quite, stated that. So we have somebody who, is a longtime Malden resident, good family, long roots in Malden, but his business is not in Malden, and he has lost his license in the city of Revere, and he is now coming back to utilize the Malden license to continue to conduct business in Revere. And as Councilor Seeker said, he also has an auto body shop. So when we're talking about 10 employees, I don't think there's 10 employees that he's employing to redo a couple of cars that he buys and decides to put together for, from a 2019 or 2000, I think it was a 13 and 2012. And there was an issue with, some past issues that you'll all see on his query that I'm not going to go into tonight in public radio. But is this what we want our grandfathered licenses being used for? That was not the intent. The intent was, to just kind of keep some small businesses in Malden moving forward and not have them put out of business. So I cannot support this tonight. And I struggle with it, but I don't think it's in the intent of what we in the license committee have done over the last 2 years and what the original intent of the grandfathered license was. So that's my 2 cents on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Would you lower your hand, please?
I certainly will.
I don't see any other hands raised. So let me, from the chair, say a couple of things. One, Mr. LaFosse has a auto body shop in Revere where he does the mechanical and auto body work on the vehicles that he has purchased. We don't want him. He did have his auto body repair shop in Malden at the location down opposite Econo Lodge. He outgrew that and moved his business he rented a larger place in Revere where he does auto body repair. So when he buys these vehicles these damaged vehicles at the auction locally, or whether he buys them in other places around the country and has them shipped to his location, he's not shipping him to Malden. He's shipping him to his auto body shop in Revere, where he does the repair shop. We're not issuing him a repair license. He does auto body repair in Revere. That's what he's doing in Revere. The license that we would have issued him is for the sale, purchase and sale of used vehicles. We require that he has a license to be located in the appropriate location. The residence wasn't the right place, so he's found another place for that to be. We don't want him to be storing the cars in Malden. He doesn't do that. He finds a customer, buys the cars, repairs the cars, and then transfers the ownership of that car to the customer. That's when he sells it. That's what he does. This is a family that has been in Malden for many years. And I'm going to ask the city clerk if you'd please read the letter that has been sent in by Mr. Dempsey. I think most of you have passed it on. Just a letter of reference. We all know Bill Dempsey, who has been a staple in Malden for many, many years. But I would say that it's up to us to decide whether or not we want to put this man out of business or not. Now, someone has mentioned that this isn't his livelihood. And I think, and he has described to me that it is his livelihood. You know, he has a business that, like most businesses, you need all the small pieces of a business to keep it going. And auto body repair is really what this is about. When he buys a salvage vehicle, it's not the mechanical work that is the main part. It's the auto body part. It's the fixing of the fenders. It's the replacing of the fenders, the replacing of the dash or the interior. That's what's done in the shop in Revere. And when it's done, he needs to transfer ownership and sell that car. So that's the story. I think we all know what is going on here. I don't know that there's any need to drag this out any further. I would hope that we would grant this long-standing person who has not been a problem for us in Malden, has not had customers that have come back and complained about their vehicles. And I'll ask Clerk Lucy if you'll please read the letter of support from Mr. Dempsey, if you will, please. This letter was written to me, but I think there are a few of you who he has written it to, but this just changed the name. But go right ahead, Mr. Lucy.
Okay, dear Neil, I have been asked to write a letter to you on behalf of Mr. Kenneth LaFosse as to his character as he is applying for renewal of his license to buy, sell, and repair automobiles. I first met the LaFosse family in 1930 when Kenneth's dad and I were classmates in grade 1 at the Linden School. I have known this family and its members for 90 years. Kenneth is a good member of this Malden family. I also know him as the school principal when he was an elementary student. I've always found Kenneth to be a kind gentleman with a desire to help others. He knows this business and has been successful in it for many years. I personally have purchased 5 automobiles for myself and my family over the years from his business. Each purchase was satisfactory and pleasant transaction. As a student, Kenneth was a very pleasant and successful member of his classes. He also took part in many student extracurricular activities in sports, American Legion, road race trophy winner, school basketball captain, school plays helper, and other activities. Please consider his application and grant his request. Our city will be stronger because his business will continue to contribute to the well-being of all our citizens. Thank you for your kind consideration and request, Bill Dempsey.
Thank you. Councilor O'Malley.
Thank you, Council President. This is an unusual night. We don't usually get things like this. And you know, that having been said, I know Councilor Di Maria had made a motion to table to get more information. I have reviewed what's been provided We have various letters from the state police. We usually don't get letters from the state police. I personally would agree with Councilor DiMaria. I think I need more information before I can vote on this. I do have a question of the petitioner or anyone in the council. Do we know who the beneficiaries are of the Viper Trust at this new location?
I believe the trustees are Michael Sullivan. Many of us will remember Barbara Sullivan, who used to work in the engineering department, who passed away in the last year or two. It's her son who's been there at, I think it's, what is it called, Barbara? Malden Engineering?
Malden Machine.
Mr. President, yes. It's called Malden Machine. Michael Sullivan is the owner of Malden Machine on 513 Broadway. His mother was Barbara Sullivan, and she worked for the city.
Thank you.
And the sole beneficiary is Michael Sullivan.
I can't answer that. I don't know if he or his family or children are sole beneficiaries,
Okay.
but he is a representative of Viper Trust.
Okay. And from what we were hearing is there's 3 other businesses currently operating in that site. Okay, thank you. I'll second Councilor DiMaria's motion to table until we have more information.
Mr. Callahan, did you have your hand raised? Was there something else?
No, I just wanted to clarify that people set up trusts for privacy, and I don't know that it's true. With all due respect to Councilor O'Malley, I don't believe it's necessary or appropriate to try to go behind the trust, if you will. That's why people set up trusts, so they can have their privacy, and I'm not sure that's relevant, but that is, I'm not sure who the beneficiaries are relevant to this, but again, that's exactly why people set up trusts. Thank you.
Okay, I think Councilor O'Malley was just looking to find out, is the person who's signing off on it, is he the legitimate person who handles that? And I've
Yes.
met him. Yes, he's the legitimate person, Councilor O'Malley. Councilor Winslow, you wanted to say something.
I just have a question. I'm looking at the packet that we got today, and I'm seeing that the licensing commission in Revere revoked the license back in January 15th, 2020. And, I could understand if it was January 15th, 2021, and you're caught in this still trying to comply, but it's been a year. So can you give us a status of what's going on with Revere? Why it's taken so long to resolve where you have your principal place of business and you're operating that business? I just don't see, it seems like if you can't resolve it in a year, I don't understand why that's happening. So.
Councilor, Mr. Callahan, would you respond to that?
Yes. I would agree, Councilor Winslow, if these were normal times, but just to remind you of the fact that the pandemic hit us in March of 20 and continues through this day. So that has slowed everything down. So that, I just note that, but secondly, there are fire code issues which Mr. LaFosse believes have been grandfathered with an older building, so that it's a complex it's a complex dispute, and that coupled with the pandemic has really slowed it down. We hope to resolve it very quickly, very soon, but again, with everything that has been slowed and the complex issues, we can only keep pushing it forward.
So have the taxes been paid then? I mean, that doesn't seem to be that tied to pandemic necessarily.
Not necessarily. I believe if he's not been paid in full, he's close to being paid in full.
With the taxes?
With the taxes.
All right, thank you.
Councilor Seeker, I think your hand is up.
I was looking to make a motion, Council President,
Okay.
but you already have one on the floor, so.
We have a tape.
Sorry, Mike from the chair.
Anyone else? Yes,
Sorry, Mike
Councilor,
from the chair.
Councilor
Yeah.
Condon?
Yes, you have a table in motion on the floor. There's no two better people to answer any questions that they feel they don't have the information for than Kenny himself and Tom Callahan, the lawyer. If you're looking for information, perhaps you might take advantage of the fact that both the petitioner and his lawyer are here and ask the question, what you're exactly looking for, or what's cloudy in your mind that you don't feel you can vote on it, and it just gets delayed more and more. So I would direct that at the two people that are offering the table in motion. Try to seek out the answer. You have both of them are here and they're cooperating to answer any questions that you might ask.
Councilor Di Maria has her hand up, Councilor
Yeah.
Condon.
Thank you. Councilor Condon, the question that I have is for our compliance officers, which I believe I had mentioned earlier, and because they work for us, and with all due respect to Tom Callahan and Mr. LaFosse, that's usually the protocol is we call in our compliance officers and we hear from them, and along with the ward counselor. I mean, I just feel that we don't have them. I know that they have spoken to Councilor Sika, but I think that that's imperative information for the rest of us, the 10 of us. So that would be my reason for a tabling motion. So
Councilor Sika told you exactly what her conversation was with the compliance people, and they're not in favor of issuing this license. I don't know what else you need.
Councilor.
I didn't hear them say that. They're not in favor.
That's what Councilor Sika said, offered us.
Well, let me just, our compliance officers are not city councilors. They're not in favor of the license. What is their judgment on this? Are they concerned that he's violating the parking spaces, that he's parking cars in the area? I mean, what do we send our compliance officers for?
I sent them to five.
You sent them to see if there is an office there. Is that correct?
That's right, I did. And there actually isn't an office technically. There's a counter space that Mr. LaFosse is going to utilize, the same counter space that Mr. Sullivan uses to operate his business.
I just received a text.
I
just received a text from one of our compliance people, Jimmy Tuxbury, that said that he's not in favor of renewing this license.
And why?
They inspected it today. Obviously, he has a problem with something. I can't answer for him.
Well, listen, councilors, if those are our compliance inspectors and we depend upon them to do the inspection to make sure people are within the law. But if you're asking the compliance inspectors, are they in favor of the license? That's our decision to make. Why would we be asking them for anything other than, are they is the application in violation of the law?
I didn't ask anybody, Mr. President.
All right.
They offered it to me.
Councilor Condon, Councilor O'Malley has his hand up now.
So do I.
Councilor O'Malley.
Councilor O'Malley, you have the floor.
So
the
question posed to Councilor Di Maria and I was, why would we like to table? Councilor Di Maria talked about the compliance officers, and we just heard from one of them. I do think having the instincts of two former police officers is crucial here, considering law enforcement is already involved. I'm sensitive to rejecting and removing this license from someone during the middle of a pandemic if it is a component of their livelihood. And right now I'm leaning towards leaving this license as a holdover and letting the applicant know that he should resolve his problems in Revere as soon as possible so that he can depend on his Revere license. And there looks like there's a good chance that this license is going to be revoked at some point in the future. I'm just sensitive about taking away someone's livelihood during a pandemic.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor, anyone who hasn't spoken that wishes to speak for the first time? Councillor Winslow is the other hand
I
up.
just have a question for our Solicitor McNaught. Is it possible to issue a license for not the whole year, just till July 1st or something like that? That, the
No.
pandemic issue, we have to either kind of do all in or not, huh?
Yeah, this is not a revocation. This is an application.
So we can't kind of do it halfway or condition it on
That's correct.
additional information. So, all right.
It's for the
Okay.
term, the usual term.
All right. Thank you. Okay.
So I don't see any other hands up. I guess we have a tabling motion on the floor.
Move the question.
And let us call the vote on a tabling motion. Clerk will call the roll.
Kamel,
No.
Condon,
No.
Crow,
No.
Di Maria,
Yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, no.
Murphy,
Murphy, no.
no. O'Malley,
Yes.
Sika,
Speaking now.
Spatafora.
No.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Anderson.
No.
Fails 8-3, 3-8.
So do we have any other motions on the floor?
I make a motion.
Councillor Sika has a motion.
I make a motion that we deny this license based on the applicant's query.
Do we have a second?
I would second it.
Councillor Condon seconds that motion. Any discussion? Seeing none, then Councillor Winslow, do you before? Yeah, I'm going to insist. Hold on a second, Councillor. I'm going to insist, councillors, that once we call for votes, the discussion will stop on these things. So we haven't called for votes. So anyone who has anything else to say, let's say it before any votes get cast. Okay, Councillor Winslow, you wish to speak on the motion?
I have a question. My suggestion would also to be add that there's a lack of sufficient nexus of the business in Malden at this point. So if Council McNaught is that's the case, I mean that is one of the questions here of whether there really is a business here that we should license. So
I'll second that amendment, Councilor Winslow, if that's an amendment.
Yeah, that'd be a suggested amendment if, yeah.
What is that amendment again, please?
So as the second rationale is that there's insufficient connection to Malden to issue a license here for this business. So.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Petitioner wish to respond or anything? Then the clerk will call the roll.
So are we voting on the amendment or are we voting on the original motion by Council?
We'll vote on the amendment. Clerk will call the vote. Do we have a second for that amendment?
I seconded it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the amendment.
Kamel,
Clerk will call the roll on the amendment.
Kamel, yes.
Condon,
Yes.
Crow,
Yes.
DeMaria,
Yep.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
Yes.
Sika,
Yes.
Spatafora,
Metaphor, yes.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Anderson,
No. Passes 10-1. So now on the motion as amended, clerk will call the roll.
Nye, Kamel,
Camilla, yes.
Condon,
Yes.
Crow,
Yes.
DeMaria,
Present.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
Present.
Sika,
Sika, yes.
Spatafora,
No.
Spatafora, Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Anderson,
No.
9-2.
9 to. There were two votes that were for, there were two votes present, correct?
Correct. And when somebody votes present, it automatically goes
Was
to
majority.
For the rest, okay. The license has been denied. Next order of business.
Committee report 66-21, committee report license.
Sorry, Mr. LaFosse. Sorry, Mr. Callahan.
Paper 335-21, Class 2, Richards Motor Cars, Inc., 672 Broadway, 80 cars. It's a renewal. And paper 36-21, Extended Hours Speedway, number 2504, 214 Broadway, 24/7. It's a renewal.
Move to receive the committee report.
On Council Connor's motion to receive the committee report, the clerk will call the roll.
Kamel,
Yes.
Condon,
Yes.
Crow,
Yes.
DeMaria,
Yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
Yes.
Sika,
Sika, yes.
Spatafora,
Metaphor, yes.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Anderson.
Anderson, yes. Councilor Condon for the paper.
Thank you, Mr.
Council
President.
for the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. We met last week on both these licenses. Compliance people had no problem with either business, and I make a motion that they be granted.
On Councilor Condon's motion that we grant these licenses, the clerk will call the roll.
Got a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Kamel. Clerk will call the roll.
Kamel,
Yes.
Condon,
Yes.
Crow,
Yes.
DeMaria,
Yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
Ellie, yes.
Sika,
Sika, yes.
Spatafora,
Metaphor, yes.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Anderson,
Anderson, yes.
7-0.
Next order of business.
Paper 68-21, committee report, public properties, paper 461A-20, petition, Celco Partnership, DBA Verizon Wireless to Calalakay Small
Mr.
Wireless.
Clerk?
Yes,
Did we miss delivery to 150 Sylvan Street?
no, you tabled that. You tabled all three of those.
I thought we tabled two of them
No,
because
you
there
end
was
up,
sufficient parking at 150 Sylvan.
but you tabled, all three got tabled.
Okay, sorry.
Let's see, referred to as small cells on existing wooden utility poles located within the public right of way at the following locations. 146 Pearl Street, as amended with the following conditions: that the equipment not be installed on any poles that are double poles or adjacent to double poles until National Grid replaces them. In these installations do not include mechanical cooking devices or fans, and that the pole within 6 feet of the ground contain a warning notice with the phone number or for Verizon to call with information on any safety concerns.
Oh,
So Council Lenahan for the paper?
Yep, move to receive the committee report.
On Councilor Lenahan's motion to receive the committee report, the clerk will call the roll.
Kamel,
Yes.
Condon,
Yes.
Crow,
Yes.
DeMaria,
Yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
O'Malley, yes.
Tika,
Speaker, yes.
Betafora,
Better for yes.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes, with one editorial thing, it's cooling equipment, not cooking equipment. So
I thought I heard that.
so yeah, it's just that it's cooling equipment.
You're always good about
So,
correcting
yes,
the grammar. You're always good about
okay.
correcting the grammar.
So
That's what happens when you read a big paragraph, you know, you just kind of.
yeah, no,
That's not really
didn't catch it
grammar, it's the
first time
entire
through,
word.
but, okay, all right, so cooling. We put
All
it
right.
in there just to catch you, Greg.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're all hungry.
Right.
Anderson,
Anderson, yes.
okay.
Okay.
Councilor Lenahan.
Thank you, Mr. President. So as I'll probably recall from the end of last year, we had quite a few proposals before the committee for this 5G infrastructure at various addresses with existing telephone poles throughout the city. We have a pretty good process of getting, public input and evaluating them against the ordinance to make sure they meet all of our requirements and don't get too close to residences and so on and so forth. We had quite a few of them that we had approved in December, but 2 petitions were proposed for polls at 146 Pearl in Ward 2, and then another one that we'll discuss in a minute at 57 Hospital Road in Ward 3. Those were tabled in committee and subsequently not received by our full council at the end of last year. So we took those up this past week with our new Public Property Committee membership in place, and the petitioners came back to us to offer some additional information. So in the case of 146 Pearl, this installation initially appeared to be proposed for a location that seemed to be less than 10 feet from the nearest residence. So we had requested some updated information from the petitioner. They came back this past week, updated that distance reading, and we did have some discussion of additional precautions that we want to have in place so that if contractors are coming to do work on the house, they would have a notification basically that a small cell is installed at the top of that nearest pole. And so we ultimately did recommend approval for that petition with that condition applied. And I do want to just note that Selco did stress to us that they don't believe work on that roof, would pose a risk to anyone based on that proximity, but we chose to keep the condition. And Selco's attorney also reiterated to us their understanding that Verizon can't install the equipment while a double pole still exists. And our expectation is that once National Grid removes the pole, this can move forward with the additional typical conditions that we would have around the, the cooling equipment, not the cooking equipment, close to the ground, and that Verizon has to post their phone number on a warning notice displayed on the pole for those future contractors or anybody getting close to the top of that property. So the committee unanimously recommended approval for 146 Pearl with those conditions, and I'm welcome any questions.
I don't see any hands raised.
I'll second it.
So we have a motion and a second. The clerk will call the roll.
Kamel,
Oh, yes.
Condon,
Condon, yes.
Crow,
Yes.
DeMaria,
Maria, yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
O'Malley, yes.
Sika,
Speaker, yes.
Betafora,
Better for yes.
Winslow,
So yes.
Anderson.
Anderson, yes. So that, go right ahead, Mr. Lucy.
Paper 69-21, Committee Report, Public Properties, Paper 461B, Petition, Selco Partnership, DBA Verizon Wireless to allocate small wireless facilities often referred to as small cells on existing wooden utility poles located within the public right of way, to withdraw and place on file a petition in the following location, 57 Hospital Road.
On Councillor Lenahan's motion to receive the committee report, clerk will call the roll.
Kamel,
Kamel, yes.
Condon,
yes,
Crow,
Yes.
DiMaria,
Maria, yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
O'Malley,
Sika,
Sika, yes.
Betafora,
Betafora, yes.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Anderson,
Anderson, yes. Committee report is received. Council Lenahan for the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. So in the case of 57 Hospital Road, when the committee met in December, we had questioned the need for a new small cell in that area since it's so far away from residences and in a location that's pretty likely to be redeveloped in the next year or so, hopefully not too far down the line. So we had tabled that until the petitioner could return with some additional information as to why they felt that was a necessary location. When we met last week, a representative from Cellco joined us and explained that they'd reviewed it and in fact agreed with our assessment that 57 Hospital Road likely wasn't necessary for coverage in this area and that the pole could ultimately become obsolete. So they actually offered to withdraw their petition and the committee unanimously voted in favor of withdrawing that petition and placing it on file.
So on Council Lenahan's motion to withdraw and place on file, do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Councilor DiMaria. The clerk will call the roll.
Kamel,
Kamel, yes.
Condon,
Condon, yes,
Crow,
Yes.
DiMaria,
Yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
O'Malley, yes.
Sika,
Yes.
Betafora,
Betafora, yes.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Anderson,
Anderson, yes. That paper has been withdrawn and placed on file. Next order of business.
docket is clear.
The docket is clear. Was anyone wishing personal privilege? Been a long night, huh, folks?
Oh, personal
Oh, Councilor O'Malley has got his hand up for personal privilege. Councilor O'Malley, the floor is yours.
It has been long, but I'll torture you guys a little bit longer.
Oh, that's okay, Councilor.
So I do want to let the community know we have it's kind of a double-edged sword. Because Malden is one of the 20 most hardest hit communities for COVID-19, the state will be adding more resources and ideally bringing more vaccines to our community to try to get us vaccinated as quickly as possible, try to really tamp down the COVID-19 spread and surge that we've been experiencing. Luckily, we're making the right direction and trending the right direction. On next Tuesday, I believe, hold on, I want to get the exact time. Next Monday at 11 a.m., the Historic Commission of Malden will be meeting to discuss 15 Ferry Street. That is one of the last 3 Converse buildings that were donated by the Converse family. It's the former, office of our state rep,
Alan.
Chris Fallon. Yeah, it's right across from the high school. It's right next to, unfortunately, 1 Salem Street, which was knocked down because it was structurally unsafe. The Historic Commission and I are trying to save it. It would be great to get a good showing and really show the property owner that we want to save this building. Lastly, I want to wish everyone a reflective Ash Wednesday tomorrow. I know it's not necessarily a big celebration type of holiday, but it is an important holiday to kind of contemplate about life and our place in it. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Sika.
Thank you, Council President. I just wanted to give you all a heads up as to a paper that will be on the docket next week. I was just wrapping it up when the docket was being created, so I wanted to provide some time for some sponsors. As I'm sure we've all seen, Amazon has been taking on a greater and greater presence in this area, including most recently on the Revere line to the ward that I represent. I'll be introducing a resolve to show our commitment as a city council to ensuring Amazon is held to high standards that are in the best interest of their employees and our community as the expansion potentially works its way into Malden. I want to thank my friends over at the Teamsters Local 25 for working with me on this important initiative. By getting ahead of this, we'll show how committed we are to the residents and maintaining high levels of standards. I'll have Clerk Lucy send this around tomorrow for anyone who is interested in co-sponsoring it with me.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Winslow.
Yeah, I just wanted to say a few things. I was happy to that the Traffic Commission tonight passed the last piece of approval for improvements in Northern Strand Trail. So thanks to Ron Hogan and my fellow councilors. I know Councilor Sika, Kamel, and Dee Marie and others supported that. So so the crossing at Broadway is moving forward, and you're starting to see stakes, survey stakes along the trail. So that's going to be the improvements that are paid for by that project. So that's going to be going forward. And on Thursday, the 25th, Bike to the Sea is having a fundraiser, an ID Parts of the Trail fundraiser. So I can't be eligible for that, but if you're interested, you can see, they'll be showing pictures along the trail and you can kind of guess where it's at. So a nice way, again, like a community trying to come together. I congratulate, I know Councilor Murphy organized one for the junior aid this past weekend that was another great way. We're all trying to be creative in how we raise funds amidst COVID. So so congratulations to Councilor Murphy on that too. Thanks.
Okay, I don't see any other hand. Anyone else looking for personal privilege? Then I see no further hands. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
That was a loud one. Councilor Di Maria moves that we adjourn, and Councilor Zika seconds that. The clerk will call the roll on adjournment.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
Bond.
yes.
Yes.
Bond.
Yes.
Crow.
Yes.
Crow. Di Maria.
Yes.
Linehan.
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes.
O'Malley.
Yes.
Sika.
Sika, yes.
Out of 4.
Yes.
Winslow.
Winslow, yes.
Anderson.
Anderson, yes. Councilors, we stand adjourned.